I'm going to just share the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm also a final year student at University of Surrey doing computer engineering. I also did 1 year placement as a software engineer at JP Morgan, and I'm glad to share the opportunity
I'm
here.
going to just share the ups and
about my
downs.
placement, how it went.
Yeah.
I'm going to just share
Hi guys,
the ups and downs.
I'm also a final year student at University of Surrey.
Thank you, everyone. That was very.
I also did 1 year placement.
That was very succinctly put. Let's go back in time to understand your motivations, behind applying for a program that offered a professional training year. So what exactly was your motivation? Before you started uni, why did you want to do a PTY? So let's start with Michelle for a change.
Okay, so for me, it was a bit of a different experience. So I basically went in just to do a normal maths degree. That's what I signed up for. And I think it was a few months into my first year that I saw an opportunity for a scholarship with JP Morgan. It was a specific women in tech scholarship. So I kind of just thought seems like a great opportunity, and it included a placement year, which I hadn't considered before. But yeah, placements are quite popular in Bath, which I wasn't aware of either. So I thought this seems like something I want to try and do. And I did a lot of research before applying for it, and went through like the assessment procedures and stuff, and did an interview. And yeah, it was like very exciting kind of opportunity for me.
Yeah.
So my main motivation was just to get experience in industry. Because at university, what they taught wasn't completely, you can't really apply it in the industry knowledge. So that was my main motivation of trying to find something where I can use this knowledge and develop it further as well. In the technological sector, my main motivation was especially apply that.
That take place in spring, and he applied and he managed to get one at Barclays, and like I must have asked him, oh, so I guess they're not paying you then, and he's like, what? They're paying him £250 for the week, and I was like, really, £250 just for a week, and just to be like an intern? So I was like, okay, cool. Investment banking kind of piqued my interest. So then company. If you're looking for an insight day, a simple Google search will sort of show you all the insight days that are available and upcoming. So I applied and kind of piqued my interest. Insight days. One in particular, JP Morgan, that was being held for people of African descent, and similar to Michelle, but not in the same sense. I was given a sort of scholarship by JP Morgan. It was called the Advancing Black Leaders Program, and essentially what it enabled us people from my background was to get sort of mentoring from someone who worked at JP Morgan, and they really encouraged me to apply, and they kind of helped me in terms of like preparation for the interview. And yeah, I did the assessment, and I managed to secure the placement. That was my main motivation, literally because my friend applied and told me that, it pays a lot, as easy as it sounds. But to be honest, without that friend,
So I think that kind of leads to my second question. So why exactly did you all apply for a software engineering placement at an investment bank specifically? So we can start with Toby. Yeah. Right.
happens in the places like Southeast London, and me coming home after school and programming, and like having the opportunity to study I think it was GCSE computer science, which was very rare for a school to do at the time. Not that many schools did GCSE computer science. I was in year 11, but my school did, and it was sort of my escape. Me coming home after school and programming. I gravitated to doing things like that, and it meant that I was able to do it well. And subsequently, I wanted to become a software engineer. That's my main motivation behind sort of applying for the software engineering role in year 11. But my school did, and
thanks, Toby. Vishal?
My escape. Me.
Yeah, so I think unlike Toby, I actually got into coding quite late in my career, I guess. So when I first started first year, I think I did a module in programming, and it was more mathematical based. I think it was like MATLAB. And it was such a new concept to me because I'd never actually done any programming prior to that. And I just really ended up enjoying it. And like a lot of people, I didn't actually know what I wanted to do after I finished uni, especially going into my degree. And I think that's the case with a lot of math students. They just kind of go into maths because they're good at it, I guess, or they like it. So I think it was just a perfect way to apply just my mathematical skills, I guess. And also, like, I just enjoy the problem solving side, like Toby said. So yeah, it was all quite fast paced in terms of like me applying to this placement, and also just getting into coding as a new concept. And I think like I was a bit worried about the level of experience I had when I was applying, but I think a lot of people kind of have a misconception that you need to be an expert in like every coding language or like really good at coding before you even think about being a software engineer. But a lot of what I learned was on the job. So I think you shouldn't really be afraid of like applying for something like that. And yeah, obviously being an investment bank, I think the appeal for JP for me was that I knew about them being a multinational, and it was quite an international bank, I guess. And I like the concept that I could maybe travel a bit and work in different locations maybe after a few years. So yeah, that's my kind of appeal for that. Oh yeah, so my friend Jade, so we actually applied at the same time, which is a funny story because like we both were just sitting there like, let's just apply for the scholarship, and we both got it, so that was good. She ended up actually on the first week or something that we joined, her team was going on a business trip to Germany, so they were like, well, I guess you're coming with us because you're on our team now. So she ended up going like the first week, which is unheard of in like intern history.
Yeah, she's breaking records.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Priyam?
Yeah, so mine's sort of similar to Michelle in a way. So I'm not doing pure computer science. I've got electronics. Well, I'm doing an electronic course really, and I was like, I want to pursue software a bit more. I like the coding side of electronics, and frankly, I don't think my knowledge was as much as someone from computer science, say in second year. So again, like Michelle said, you don't need to have the proper background necessarily. Obviously, you need to know the basics, etc. So I was like, I'll give it a go, and luckily it paid off well. I had to do some research just from interview questions, etc., what they asked, etc. So just putting some time on that research really helped to fill that space in for not having a computer science background. And I've always loved technology since I was a kid. Really, like I was always fascinated by it. So I thought, going in software this might be a stepstone as well to maybe going into bigger companies later on if I want to in my career. So that way I was like, software engineer is probably the one, and not mostly electronics. I know there's quite a lot of people right now who do like to pursue hardware side. So anyone who's doing an electronic degree, doesn't matter if you want to apply to software engineer roles. They're open to any sort of roles. I think there was one of my colleagues, he graduated in physics as well, and he ended up being a software engineer. So it's very open. Doesn't really matter of the background.
Right. Thank you, guys. That was great responses. So my second question is, there's normally a statement that's thrown around, and it's that only students from top universities can or are considered for these positions or roles. How true or false is that perception? Do you think people like us from Surrey or Reading can actually make it at these top companies like JP Morgan?
I think Surrey's a relatively good university. I mean, when I applied, it was ranked ninth. I mean, it's kind of fallen a bit by the wayside now. I mean, uni's got up and down in ranking. Ultimately, I think what companies are interested in is you as a person, right? If you've got the qualities, the skills, and you're a good fit for the company, I don't think anything is stopping you. I think, especially when it's a big firm, big firms have the ability and the capacity to take a chance on a student and to really invest in you. Obviously, if you're applying for like a startup or a really small firm, then obviously having a Oxford on your CV that goes a long way, and it isn't bad to have. But ultimately, especially when it comes to software engineering, it's more about your experience and your ability to sort of deliver. And I don't think firms are really as interested in what university you went to, in my opinion, anyway.
Right. Graham?
Yeah, I agree with what Toby said. It's about the individual, what qualities they have. If you're really passionate about the role, I think they'll see that in you immediately, and think of you as a person to invest in. There is no like, oh, you're from Oxford or Cambridge, we're going to hire you straight away. At the end of the day, they have to go through the interview process anyway. Yes, it's good to have it on it, but I think they really look at you as an individual, besides academics.
Michelle?
Yeah, I guess like just adding on to that, I think in fact, like while I was at JP, I was surprised at the lack of Oxbridge graduates. I think there was quite a lot of people just from everywhere in the UK, and most of the people that are quite high up, actually, I've noticed they weren't even at like highly ranked unis. They were quite, just relatively like just any uni in the UK really. So I think there's quite a diverse like amount of backgrounds for people at JP Morgan specifically. I think it's probably true for like a lot of other big companies that they really just look for people with potential. So I think sometimes the converse can be true. So sometimes people from Oxbridge tend to be a bit more, I guess they're too confident in what they already know and they're not willing to like accept that they have more to learn, I guess. I mean, I'm not generalizing, but it could be an advantage to come from a background that's not necessarily Oxbridge.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just to sort of further reiterate the point, I know someone who it wasn't technology, albeit, but it was for investment banking. I know two people who applied. One applied and he goes to Cambridge. The other person applied and he goes to Kent. The person from Kent got the role. So if the whole sort of myth that you go to Oxford you can get any job were true, then surely they would have hired the person from Oxford. So it's really about you as a person and how well you do at the interview and during the application process.
Right. Thanks for clarifying. I think that was really useful to our students here. So, speaking about the process, what was the application process like? Was it like extremely competitive? And how did you overcome each stage in the recruitment cycle? So we can have Michelle going first for this.
Yes, I guess for me it was a bit unique compared to like the other interns. I'm sure Toby has a different experience, but because I was applying for a scholarship as like a whole kind of thing, it was more, I guess, of a different process. So I had like a coding assessment, which is like an online like coding kind of question that they give you, and you basically choose the language, and it's like a very simple thing that you have to do. Like it's quite mathematical. So even if I didn't have much coding background, I can easily just find the syntax of Python and just like answer it. So that was good. And then after you pass that stage, I think I had an interview in December. So that was probably the main chunk of like how they judged if I was right for the role and stuff like that. So I think the first thing I noticed was that a lot of people that were in the interview cohort with me weren't as prepared as me in a way. So that's one, because I didn't see any of them when I actually joined the program. So I remember asking like what your notes are on the company, or like what questions you're going to ask like the interviewer, because they do give you a little email brief about how to prepare. So I think I went a bit overboard. I just went full on, just researched everything about JP, found all the recent news articles about them and technology, and I actually learned a lot about them myself and became a bit more interested. So I think it's definitely recommended that you check out any recent news articles, and it's quite relevant at the current time. So yeah, the pandemic could be a big one right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that was quite interesting, and it was good because I actually felt like, you know, I want to ask them a few questions like, oh, how are you dealing with Bitcoin and blah blah blah, like things like that. So I think they take that well if you ask questions at the end, and they think they kind of see you as more passionate by doing that and a bit more confident, I guess. So yeah, I think coming across to the interview is a very important part of the application process.
Priya?
Yeah, so I don't know if mine's similar to Michelle's or not, but I had coding. So I didn't do any Spring Week or anything before. I just applied straight on the website for industrial placement position, and so I had a coding test as well. First, you put in your CV, etc., with followed by some video interviews, just regarding what your approach was to the coding question. And like Michelle said, it is mathematical, and some of it's mainly just logic, really. And then they invite you to the assessment center, and that it is a long day. I'm not gonna lie. It can be exhausting sometimes. It can be draining as well, because there is quite a lot of people, and you see all the people around you. Sometimes you could feel overwhelmed, but you just got to stay confident and believe in yourself. So I tried to do because there was quite a lot of people on the day I went, and yeah, so they did send a link as well of some stuff that you should prepare for, and I did the same as Michelle. Looked at some technology things that JP are doing right now, and like Michelle said, you ask them questions. So it could be the simplest thing, doesn't necessarily have to be Bitcoin or something. Like cloud's a big thing right now, just ask them like, oh, are you guys thinking about cloud or not? With all the users on it, privacy issues, whatnot. Just simplest question like this just gets you engaged, and it makes the interview feel like you're really interested in technology at this firm, essentially. And the coding question, you can just prepare for it online. There's so many websites like HackerRank or something, and they give you a good background on simple coding questions and how to solve them, and just do some practice on those and get used to it.
Toby?
So my similar, very very similar to Priyam in terms of I applied through the website, got sent a link to do an online interview, sort of an online sort of test as well. It was like split into like the coding part, which was obviously I can't remember the coding question, but I had to do the coding question, and then we also had to do like explain how we got our solution. After that, I was invited to an assessment center. In terms of like preparing for the assessment center, very similar to Michelle and Priyam, I did a lot of research about the company. And actually, what happened to me was I was actually very lucky in a sense that, I was sort of preparing, quite stressed, walking through campus. And I bumped into a guy who I always say hi to, but I never really had the opportunity to speak to. And he sort of came up to me and was like, oh, why do you look so stressed today? Normally, you're always bubbly and happy. And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I'm preparing for an assessment center and, at JP Morgan. And he was like, oh, really? I've got a friend that works at JP Morgan. He's been working there for 4 years. I can give you his number and you guys can speak. And I managed to get in touch with his friend, and he sent me like, the package of information. And when like you sort of see something, you just start smiling because that this is heaven sent. Like it had sort of all the new technologies JP Morgan was working on, something called Athena, information about something called Athena, which is like an in-house tool that JP Morgan use. And I sort of just took notes on it, memorized all the important parts of the information, and I just said it in the interview. And the interview was like, "Oh wow, you must have done your research to know about this stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I did." But ultimately, I got lucky. But like Michelle and Priyam have said, that preparing is really important for interviews. Don't leave it to last minute. Don't think you can get there and answer all of their questions, because you won't be able to, and you won't get the offer. So yeah, preparing is very important in my opinion.
Yeah, I think adding on to Toby really quickly.
Yeah, so just...
go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, go on. Okay. The one other thing that I found really useful was stressing on, well, this is particularly for a software engineer, is on testing in the interview. Like they ask you many questions they give you scenarios of like, you have to do this, blah, blah. And the more you stress on about testing, I think they really like that. So that puts a good impression on your application as well.
Yeah, so as well as like how Toby said, he had a friend that he knew that was working there, you could actually reach out to people that do work there on LinkedIn, or that you know that's worked there on a placement, for example. Because I think it's good that you mentioned it in an interview, because I think I remember reaching out to someone that was working in one of the fintechs that are under JP Morgan. So they actually in-house like a lot of these small startups. And I thought that was really cool and interesting. And I happened to know someone that was in one of those startups. So I got in touch with them, and then I kind of mentioned that in the interview as well. And I think that helps to show that you're very proactive in terms of like trying to reach out to people. So you don't have to just know someone. You could always just, give it a shot on LinkedIn. People are friendly.
Yeah, no, 100%. Your network is your net worth. And, anyone watching this that goes to the University of Surrey, if you ping me a message, I'm not going to ignore you. I mean, like it's a simple search on LinkedIn. Who went to Surrey that also works at JP? You're an alumni. They're an alumni of the university. They're not going to ignore you. So, simply pinging them a message, telling them you have an interview and like you just want to ask a couple of questions. I'm sure they'll reply. Some don't, but you've got nothing to lose if you message.
Yeah,
absolutely. Worst, remember your network is your net worth. Absolutely. And speaking about interviews, I just want to know how much of your previous work experience actually helped, while trying to show your competencies or while trying to show what value you'll be able to add to JP Morgan. So can we start with Toby this time?
In terms of like work experience and stuff.
Yeah.
So the summer prior to me getting the job at JP Morgan, so I was looking for like a summer internship in first year. Obviously, that's quite difficult to get because a lot of these internships at companies are for second year students. So I was just looking for anything, and I didn't find anything towards the end of the year. And then my department posted an opportunity to work at like a cancer charity as a data I think analyst or something like that. And I thought it looked cool. So I applied and I managed to get the role. And they were only paying me £5.50 an hour. And I remember I hated it because, I'd have to wake up early, and because it was in Farringdon. So I'm not sure if any of you know where Farringdon is in Guildford. It's like maybe like 30 minutes to an hour away. So I had to wake up very early in the morning, get a train all the way to Farringdon just for £5.50 an hour. And what motivated me, the reason why I woke up early to go was because I knew that if I did this and stuck it out, I could put that on my CV and it would boost my chances of actually getting a job I wanted in the future. So, you can't complain when you're on the come up at the end of the day. So, that was really the experience that I had working at that cancer charity. And I brought it up in the interview, and, working for a cancer charity doesn't sound bad, does it? It sounds very good. It sounds like you've done some sort of charity work. So, I said I was a data analyst for a cancer charity, and they were like, oh, impressive. So, yeah, I guess it paid off in the end. So really what I'm trying to say is get experience. No matter what the experience is, it will pay off eventually.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yes, I was going to say that for me personally, I didn't have any work experience before applying for JP, which I was very concerned about because obviously it's good to talk about in an interview. So I think what I ended up doing was using a lot of like the volunteering stuff that I did. So like basically in sixth form, I was a prefect and I did like a few committee stuff, which is quite like, you'd think it's low level and doesn't really it's not going to be impressive on the CV. But if you use that experience and express it in the right way, I think you can like make it come across very well. So I basically was in like, I ran a communications committee, which advertised school events. And we basically kind of created like a whole marketing team with like PR people and like videographers and photographers. So I kind of use that as like my leadership skills and my teamwork skills. And I think even things from school, if you don't feel shy about trying to play them up, because they're valuable in the end and you're quite unique for doing those things. So I think even if it's something small like volunteering somewhere, and if it's like a free thing, or just like a small side project that you're doing on your own. Like I know everyone's at home at the moment. So even doing things like at home and like maybe an online thing, running something like that, that's also valuable to showcase some skills. I think the way that you express it as like a evidence for something that is a skill that they're looking for, that's the best way to present it in an interview.
Thanks, Michelle. Priyam?
Yeah, so with me is a bit like Michelle as well with volunteering stuff. I didn't really have any previous, well, I had tutoring work experience, but nothing relevant to the software field. Although I did have like little projects of my own, just simple things like, having your home network or something, simple servers, some little stuff that you can put into your CV as well, just to show like, you've got some sort of skill and passion for technology. And I also did some IT related work for my local community as well. And I think that helped me to actually got me more into software as well. And it developed my skills along the fundamentals that I need for little things like making an app or for my local community, something like that. So even if it's just volunteering, I think it makes a huge difference to start off with something small. But the other ones I had was just tutoring. I think that helped me with some communication skills, etc., dealing with students, etc. So I think that also contributed towards some of my application.
Thanks, Priyam. I think this is more of a second part of the same question. So, when you do volunteering or charity work, how do you kind of show that transferable competencies and how do you apply that to your job role at a company? So how did you show that? How did you show that value add or the value that you can bring?
Like, I can give you an example. So my first ever job was at McDonald's when I was 17. And McDonald's is a company where you have to work fast paced, as in you have to be quick, right? You're serving close to 300 customers in an hour, right? And you're under pressure to perform, right? See, me just saying that alone makes it seem like I can work very well under high pressure. So it's really about taking something that seems trivial and making it seem like you can apply it to anything. You can apply working to McDonald's literally to working at a big company, right? The pressure, you meeting deadlines. And I'm sure when you're volunteering as well, there's a lot of transferable skills that you sort of acquire that you can also mention in the interview. It's about identifying those skills and then being able to convey them.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, I agree completely with what Toby's saying. And for example, like something as small as running a committee in your own school. So, for example, I think I recruited like people in the year below me to be underneath me in the committee to like basically delegate tasks to and like organize them into little groups and stuff. So I think that was a lot of managerial skills that were used in that time. And I remember I did get involved with like my own school's marketing department and like try to learn what they did in order to use it in like the committee. So I think even something very small, like something you did in school, can be like very transferable. So I think I did learn, like personally, I felt like I learned a lot doing that alongside my A levels as well. And managing that with 4 A levels is also quite difficult. So time management, just think of all the buzzwords.
Thanks, Michelle. Priya?
Yeah, so mine, similar to like what Michelle said, like for example, the tutoring, I'm the head TA there in the company. So I sort of lead the other teaching assistants and, tell them like this is what's got to be done, this is how you would help them, etc. So that shows leadership skills, I guess, with the role that, you can take on the leadership role. You're not afraid to do it, no matter how big it is. And the volunteering bits, sometimes, the side projects, let's say, it shows your power as an individual, I guess, because even though you don't work with a firm or something, you learned it all by yourself. So that shows the willingness to learn something new, etc. It shows again, the passionate bit which comes in. So yeah, like Toby said, little things, you try to bring them into context with the role and it'll pay off.
Thanks, guys. Wonderful responses. I just want to know, what do you wish you knew before applying for a placement? And what prior knowledge actually helped you beforehand? So if one of you could go first, that'd be great. Maybe let's start with Michelle.
I think just not being afraid to ask questions and like learning from the people around you, because I don't think they're expecting you to know a lot beforehand. And it's a very new experience just joining like a firm, even if you've come from like university or if you come from another job, like it's the same across the board. So I remember, I think like some new people also joined my team while I was on placement, and they're probably more experienced than I am. They worked at other companies like Google, but even they struggled to start the same way I did when I started at JP. So I think just understanding the difference between not being good at like the work and just generally getting used to the systems and like the programs they use because it's quite a lot of admin at the beginning, and like you have to give yourself a buffer period of like a few weeks or a month before you really feel like you've settled in and you can use everything like competently, I guess. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help.
And what knowledge helped you beforehand? So what did you have as an advantage compared to your?
I think for me it was just like the willingness to adapt, and like just problem solving skills from my maths degree definitely helped a lot, because I was used to very abstract stuff from like my degree and like all the theory. I wasn't scared of trying to learn anything new, I guess, because yeah, so like and I think the coding languages that I learned, so I think Python, I did a little bit of Python before I started, so I knew I was going to be coding in that. So I did a few like beginner courses. You can find them everywhere on the internet, so like whatever your they do let you know a little bit about what your role will be, so just research a little bit.
Yeah, Michelle's right, man. When you're doing a subject like maths, you can learn anything. But in terms of me, right, I think for me it was getting over imposter syndrome. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. So this time last year, I think I had already received the offer for JP Morgan. So I received it quite early into the year, and obviously I was over the moon and stuff. But I just kept thinking about, oh, you know, what if I'm not good enough? You know, what if I get there and I can't convert the offer? What if I'm not performing well? Like, you know, did I just get lucky? You know, doubting myself a lot. And I think when you sort of doubt yourself, it means it really shows in your work. If you don't believe your work is good enough, why would anyone else think it's good enough? So I think for me, it was just about building confidence and having more belief in myself. And I acquired that in a number of ways, you know, sort of opening up to mentors and people around me and stuff, and just really understanding that I deserved to be there, right? That I earned the right to sort of be in the room and stuff. And I think that's sort of what I learned more, essentially confidence. Yeah.
And what knowledge helped you beforehand, before joining JP Morgan?
So in terms of like knowledge priors, obviously I'm quite fortunate that I studied computer science, which probably gave me a bit of an advantage over Prim and Michelle. But I would say, yeah, my sort of computer science knowledge beforehand definitely helped in terms of me being able to hit the ground running. But like Michelle said, you know, there was a lot of admin in the first month. That meant I pretty much didn't do much work. You know, you're trying to request access for this piece of software, and yeah, it's a bit sort of chaotic at the start.
Yep.
Yeah, so with me, again, I didn't have much of a technical background either, and I was very overwhelmed, just like Toby. You know, I was doubting myself. I was like, did I get lucky? You know, how am I going to perform? What's going to happen? I don't know this knowledge. There's many people with computer science backgrounds who know more than me. And then luckily a friend of mine, he gave me this nice motivational speech to really up my confidence. Just like Toby said, you know, they've picked you for a reason. They see some potential in you. And one other thing was as well, so I got to know which team I was going to be in, not this time, but probably around January or something. And my manager was very nice, and he contacted me.
Yeah, this story.
Say like, yeah, he was very nice. He was like,
he invited you to his mansion.
Team party. He was like, yeah. So he invited me to this team party, and I think that really helped me to sense like, you know, I actually belong here. Like everyone was really, really nice to me. They were saying, "You'll be fine, don't worry." And then from there on, I also took that as an opportunity to ask them about the systems, what they use. And they said they use Java mainly, blah blah. And so that's where I took the opportunity. Okay, I need to make sure I brush up my Java skills, learn Java. I had known C++ before, so I guess that's sort of an advantage of my previous experience. And Java is more of an extension to it. So that the whole meeting with my manager really helped me to get that confidence back up. And yeah, again, with the first week, it wasn't much work. In fact, I didn't even get a project to like a month in or something, because everything was just so chaotic with all the situations and the stuff they had. But yeah, I think just be confident in yourself, and it will help you a lot later on.
Thanks, Priya. I think Toby mentioned a really important point about mentors. So how important is it to have the right mentor, and how did having the right mentor shape your experience while working in JP Morgan? So we can start with Toby.
I think sometimes, you know, like in any sort of relationship, sometimes you click with people, sometimes you don't. So I was given a mentor prior to me joining the firm, because I told you I was part of something called Advancing Black Leaders. So they gave me a mentor in the firm. And obviously he didn't have to continue mentoring me once I joined the firm. This was just for summer, right? But we regularly, in fact, we still catch up now. And what's interesting is when you start at JP, when you start as an intern at JP, everyone gets signed a buddy, so a mentor essentially. And I met up with my buddy once, and you know, she only met up with me probably because she was told that she had to, and I didn't really hear much from her throughout the entire year. And I guess it was because we didn't click as people, right? And no hard feelings to her. She was just doing her job, I guess. But the mentor I sort of had prior to me joining the firm was the one that sort of guided me, and the one I still go to when I have questions. So it's just about not forcing a relationship and finding someone you can actually relate to and just building rapport with them, really. It's just like having, you know, an older brother or a friend you can ask questions to.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to Toby. I did have a buddy when I started, and he was quite nice. And I just kind of, you know, used it as a little catch up and like just to vent about certain things that you're struggling with. I think it's just generally good to see someone like that's in a higher position than you, where you're looking to get to. And I think that's important for everyone, just no matter where you are, like what work you're doing. Because it's giving you kind of like a realistic concept of the goal you want to get to. So I think it's quite important to see a lot of like female leaders. And I think personally, my manager, she was actually like a woman in tech, and like she was also a mother. So I was very inspired by like how she balanced her time, because she actually was taking care of a 1-year-old at home, and she'd regularly have to like change her priorities and stuff just to manage it. And she was quite high up as well, so she was a VP. So I think I just respected that she could have that balance. And I know like a lot of women out there are worried about how they're going to balance like a career and like their family life, and that's a big concern. I think it's just nice to see someone older than you in that position, like managing it perfectly fine. And JP are quite good at actually like allowing you to have more flexibility, especially if you're a parent. So that gave me a bit of confidence about the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, in terms of before getting the job, like I said about my friend, I think just having someone like, oh, maybe say an older brother or something, or even just one of your close friends, we applied to placements and stuff together. And that way, you know, just know that, okay, we're in this together, we'll get somewhere, we'll get one placement at least, if no matter which one it is. So that helps you just believe in yourself, like, you know, everyone's doing this together, it's just not me, I'm not the only one. And in the job, like, yeah, you have the buddy as well. I think with me, I had probably 4 or 5 sessions with my buddy, and she helped me to just understand what we're doing in the business side, essentially, in the team, because I'm not good with finance. I didn't really understand it properly in the team. So she really helped me to understand the business. And then it's just up to you of, you know, picking someone, or you think whoever you're working with, to shadow them, see what they're doing, learn from them. Then they're quite willing to help with whatever questions you ask, even if it's the most silliest ones. And I had quite a lot of silly questions at the beginning, I must admit, but it's fine. They're very patient with you, for you to get all back on track. And also having meetings with your manager, I think, helped. And if hopefully your manager's nice, but I think most of them are. But they help arrange monthly meetings. They ask you, like, you know, how are you doing? What more do you want to learn? It's not just like manager tells you, you know, this is what you have to do. If you ask them, I don't like this, I want to do something in this back end, like Java stuff. And then there was a project coming on for a front end application. And that's where I thought, you know, let me speak to my manager. And I told him, you know, can I work on this now? Like, I think I've got nothing. And he said, yeah, why not? So just, you can really treat them as like a friend, or, you know, you can speak to them normally. It's not like you have to be, hi sir, good morning, etc. So that way it's very chill in that sense.
Thanks, Priya. I think Michelle mentioned something really important. She said that she looked up to someone who was able to manage their personal and professional commitments with equal ease. So, was it possible for all of you to strike an optimal work-life balance? And if so, how did you go about doing that? Because personally, I couldn't when I was on placement. So, Toby, would you like to answer that first?
I mean, I think it depends on your industry, right? I mean, obviously, investment banking has a very bad sort of reputation that people are in the office till like 2 a.m.
An optimal work-life
back in the
balance.
office at like 7 or
And
something
if
like
so,
that.
how did you
I
go
think a
about
few
doing that?
interns,
Because personally, I couldn't when I was on
decided to
placement.
go into investment banking.
So
That
Toby,
was their
would you
experience.
like to answer that first?
But for us, I think it depends. It's safe to say that it was slightly different. Tech is more about your output than the amount of hours you're in the office, right? So if you're delivering, you don't necessarily have to spend 20 hours in the office. And what I would say as well is, my manager was very nice in the sense that when I was in the office at like 6 on a Friday, he would be like, "What are you doing here?" Like, leave. Like, he would actually tell me to leave. So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I guess I was able to balance it quite well, actually.
Michelle?
Yeah, I think I agree with Toby. Like, I remember meeting interns in the summer internship that were in the banking side, especially investment banking. They said that they'd be in the office at like 7 a.m. and they wouldn't leave till 12. So it really depends on the industry. And I think you have to be mentally prepared if you're going into something like as stressful as investment banking, because it's quite high risk. So that means that there's a lot of money on the line in terms of like a lot like your output and stuff. For technology, for example, I think it's even in technology it varies a bit, because I know some teams were quite stressful. They worked with the traders, so they had to like provide solutions like quite on demand. So it really depends on what team you're in. And I think if you're working at a big company, I think the good thing is that you have a bit more flexibility in moving around. So if you're not comfortable with your like the type of work you're getting, then you can always maneuver into something else. So yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people see in investment banking, it's a very appealing industry because they make money, but you're literally spending so many of your hours that you don't have time to spend that money. So that's what I've seen of that.
A lot of people just stay in investment banking for like 5 years. But what I will say as well, I probably shouldn't say this, but at big firms, you can really hide if you want to. I can't lie to you. There are people in my team, in my opinion, didn't really do much, right? Because the firm is so big, you can hide because there's not that direct accountability. If you're working at a startup, for example, and there's only 10 people, one person not performing will significantly affect the delivery of work. But at big firms, if you want to hide, then you can. I'm not saying any of you
Yeah.
should. I'm just pointing that out, that big firms is easier to hide.
Yeah, but I will say one thing, that I like tech because they do have a lot more flexibility with working from home. So I know the current situation, most people are having to work from home. So for us, it was quite an easy type of like switch, because we were so used to 1 day a week maybe working from home and just coding at home, because everything you output and in the end just happening like online. So you don't really have the need to meet anyone. I guess it depends from team to team, but
didn't Com work from home 2 days a week?
Yeah, like 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even my manager, who has a kid, she would work from home. Yeah.
Yeah, he lived far. He lived quite far away, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, he lived far. Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind, like the lifestyle of certain industries.
So, Prem, was that the same case for you as well?
Yeah, so with, again, like I think they pretty much covered all of it. So it's up to the team as well. Like my team was working closely with the traders at times, and there will be points where we have a production problem and they'll be in the office till like 12 sometimes, trying to fix it with the traders. So varies time to time, and then the next day they won't even turn up at the office. After the issue's fixed, they'll take a day off or something.
Yeah.
So that way you can have that balance. Like you can say, I'm going to attend this or something, and you're free to go, you meet other people. And so because they have so many different events going on, especially during the summer internship period, there's so many events going on. we will usually just go. I don't know what days.
Yeah, I
There's quite a lot of
agree.
days
Me and
where they will invite you. You get free food, free drinks.
yeah, free food. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing I definitely miss.
Yeah.
But what me and Michelle got to meet Tony Blair.
Yeah.
He actually came to speak
Came
at
for a
JP
talk.
Morgan. I only managed to get as close to him to get a handshake.
I mean, he got closer than I did. I just watched from a distance.
Yeah,
because...
like his security wasn't allowing people to take photos, but some people managed to sort of sneak around security and sort of take selfies with him. But I only got a handshake, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's quite controversial, so it's like no wonder he's got bodyguard.
Yeah. But no, it was an interesting talk actually, and this was prior to sort of the whole election and stuff. So and he sort of predicted it. He kind of predicted what was going to happen.
Yeah, he did
asked
actually.
Him, he kind of said that Boris was going to win a big majority, and it's interesting talk.
Yeah, depressing to think about now.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about your meeting with Tony Blair. That's quite interesting.
So it wasn't a meeting. I didn't have a meeting.
He came to give like a talk about geopolitical. What was it? Geopolitical
issues and stuff. So basically, Tony Blair sits on one of JP Morgan's boards. So he's like he's I think he's a non-exec, but he sits on the board, right? So he came for like a talk. And literally, JP Morgan do these events where any employee can literally say, "I want to attend." It's like the uni doing an event, and you just book and say that you want to come. So me and Michelle were just in the audience. I asked him a question. I think I asked him what his most proudest achievement was or something like that, and then obviously afterwards he walked out of the back door, and obviously people
about got a handshake.
Yeah, I just about managed to get a handshake from him with his security pushing me away, but it was interesting.
Jamie Dimon also came to the London office, so he sat there. So I watched him there, and
we got to watch him live.
He's a very interesting guy, and like I recommend watching anything he talks about. Yeah, he's got a lot to say.
Yeah, his talk was very interesting, actually. Yeah, I would say I preferred that more.
Yeah, I think talk. I agree.
So, guys, in the interest of time, I'll just move on to a last question before we go to the Q&A. So, having all of these experiences, so how do you think a PTY has actually changed your outlook towards the industry? So we can start with Michelle first.
Yeah, I think I've learned so much over the last year, just in terms of like just being in that environment in the office, like around like technology people, and also getting exposure to the business side was so insightful, because you kind of see how the industry works as a whole, and you get a really good feel of like what it's like to be like in the financial industry, for example, but also you get snippets into like technology because it's so wide ranging. And I think it's good because you do also, like with a big multinational, you can get insights into other countries. So like my team was spread across India and New York and a little bit in Glasgow as well. So I got to speak to them like on a daily basis. And it just, and also being an American bank, you kind of like understand more about the way American like financial systems work. So my team specifically did the market risk like reporting every quarter to the Fed. So we kind of automated that for some people. So yeah, it was interesting to see how it actually happens, and like the behind the scenes, and like just there's so much that you just get overwhelmed. Like it covers so many different parts of like finance that you're like, okay. Yeah. So I think you do you learn a lot, both in the technical aspects of your day-to-day job, but also like just generally networking and being around like different teams.
Toby?
It's definitely, to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm working harder now because I'm always at home or because I did a placement year, but in terms of like my productivity, it's definitely increased since coming back from the placement year. Obviously, you're working every day, 9 to 5, which means that every day you have to do work. I mean, in second year, you've got Wednesday off, you've got pretty much half of the week off. So in second and first year, you can sort of develop the habit of not sort of always delivering, or delivering, maybe a week before the deadline and stuff like that. So for me, I've definitely sort of learned to be more productive, and I kind of do a minimal amount of work every day. I essentially do uni work every day, which is something I didn't do prior to the work at the year-long placement.
Priya?
Yeah, so with me, I think adding on to Michelle, like I think I just got a good perspective of what I want to do in the future now. Just being in the firm, looking at other people, seeing what their career's been like, what this person's been like, and you think, okay, do I want something like this, or do I want both of it together? So that way, it's helped me to visualize what I want from my career. And like Toby said as well, I think it helps you to plan things later on. Like I think first and second year, I would leave everything to last minute. Although I don't think my productivity is same as Toby, seeing how he's finished one of the courseworks like 4 weeks early. But I think that helped me to just be like, you know what, let me just start doing this instead of leaving it last minute like previous years. And again, get that balance. Like, I want to do this much amount of work today, and then rest of the day I can do this. Blah blah. Helps you plan properly.
Great. So thank you so much, guys. That was a very engaging and insightful discussion. And now we'll open the floor to the audience. So we have a few questions coming over. Just bear with me 1 second. So I think we have one of our viewers ask this. So do you think applying to placements is actually a numbers game, or do you just focus on a few quality applications? So what was your approach? Let's start with Toby.
So I think applying early is a must, right?
Yeah.
Your sort of CV cover letter has to be ready to go from the end of summer, right? And it's really just about throwing as many applications out there, because not many applications will ask you to do more than just a CV and cover letter in the initial phase, right? So you just throw as many sort of applications out there as possible, and then when you get that initial competency test or coding challenge, you can prioritize which ones you want to focus more attention on. But ideally, if you are one of the first people to apply, you will be one of the first assessment centers, which means that by December you'll have a placement and you can just focus on uni stuff for the rest of the year, right? If you apply too late, then you run the risk of sort of not having a placement in February, and having uni deadlines, and also sort of you need to apply to places and stuff. So definitely applying early is almost a priority, in my opinion.
Michelle?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Even though for me it was a bit unique because I applied in first year for a specific thing. So mine was a bit more focused on that one application and like that research in that one company. And personally, because I knew I really wanted to work at this place, and I'd done like my research, I know what I wanted to do at that point. I was able to perform better in the interview, I guess. But I think that varies. So yeah, like Toby said, if you're applying early and you've prepared everything beforehand, you know what you want personally, like you're not just throwing them at like different places just for the sake of it. You kind of have like that idea of what you want, and you can just apply that to like every application. So I think just making sure your CV is like top notch before just sending it in everywhere, and then like Toby said, just prioritizing the ones that are important to you. And yeah, also try and value yourself a bit. So at the interview stage, if you get there, like make it clear what you want, or like the questions you have for the company as well. So yeah.
Priya?
Yeah, so my approach was similar as well. I had my CV and a cover letter template ready. So every time I apply to a new firm, change the firm's name in the cover letter, add some information about them, and send that off. And apply to as many as you can. I think I applied to around probably 10 or 15. And previous to my JP Morgan's assessment center, I also got invited at Sky for an assessment center. So I think even if you get, like Toby said, you separate the ones that you want interested in out. If you get assessment centers there, etc., I think it really helps to know what to do next in the next assessment center. So I think my Sky interview experience really helped me to understand, okay, assessment center and all of that skill that I learned in the Skies one really helped me at JP Morgan's one. So that's one benefit as well. Like if you apply to many, you have a bigger opportunity to get at least at least 2 assessment centers, let's say, if not all of them. And from there you can think, okay, I want to go to this one and get the experience. Maybe try one at a small firm first, and then try for the big ones, so that you don't regret anything else later on. Think I should have done it this way or something. And applying early gives you that benefit, right? You can decide which ones to do it in, which ones not to, before the dates start running out.
Thank you, guys. I think the second question might be slightly controversial. How much of support did you get from the university while applying for placement?
Very good question. Actually, interesting story. So you see, before I bumped into my friend who sort of gave me that bunch of information pack, the reason why I was so stressed is because I literally just had a meeting with someone in the employment and recruitment center. What is that the correct term for it? What's it called? The employment and career center.
Employability and careers, yeah.
Yeah. So I literally just had a sort of meeting with them, right? And I was like, oh, I've got a JP Morgan assessment center coming up. Is there anything you can give me to prepare? Then they were like, okay, cool. You can have like a one-to-one session with some guy. I had the one-to-one session with him, which was only lasted like 10 minutes. And it wasn't really that helpful, if I'm being very honest. And then he was like, oh, you might want to use this book. And the book here was literally this thick. And I literally had a week to prepare for my assessment center. So obviously I very kindly took the book and was just walking through campus with my head down, very sort of upset because I didn't know what I was going to do. And thankfully I got that gift from heaven, the friend who gave me that information pack. But I guess the employment and career center is a place to start. You can get someone to read your CV and cover letter, but there are also a ton, and I mean a ton of resources out on the internet. There's Rare Recruitment, there's SEO London, there's Bright Network, there's so many people, and also there's LinkedIn and the Surrey alumni. Like if someone messaged me and asked me to read their CV, I wouldn't say no. You've got your friends, you've got other people that use everyone you have in your network to make sure your CV and cover letter is up to standard. Good is never good enough if it can be great. So you need to keep working on your CV. Like I still work on my CV today. So yeah, you just need to keep working at it and sending it to as many people as possible.
Vishal?
Yeah, I guess I'm at a different uni, right? But personally, I didn't really use the careers people that much. Like, I know that I had to hand in my CV and have them check it, and like they gave some feedback, which is always useful, I guess, if you need like a starting point for someone to look at your CV. And if you're not really sure who to go to, then yeah, I guess use it. But yeah, you can do without it, to be honest, like not gonna lie. But yeah, I think if you're really struggling just getting started and maybe trying to find places to apply, if you're like not sure which direction you want to go in, or you need help with like essay writing skills, things like soft skills that you need to do better in, then I think just try and go to the university for that. Other than that, you can do it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, again, with me, I didn't really know much about the employability stuff, to be honest. I don't think it was advertised well. I think right now is really good. I think Pathfinder is very good right now.
Yeah,
they got quite good. They got jobs on Apple and stuff. Yeah, we didn't have that, unfortunately, during our time 2 years ago. They didn't have many good companies on there. But personally, I just looked at stuff on the internet. I looked at people's CVs, and one thing I noticed was, try to keep it as minimalistic as possible. Before, mine was like 2.5 pages, and then I saw it has to be 1 page. Don't try to write sentences and stuff. So that made me realize, keep it nice and short. So just stuff on the internet. I think with my department, with electronics, they do help you get into Sky. They've got like a partnership with Sky. I think University of Surrey has that. So that way, that helped me to get into Sky a bit more, easily, I guess. And which helped me for that interview experience, like I mentioned. So in that sense, I would give some credit to the uni. But for CV and stuff, I think that all of that I just did by myself with some research.
Thank you, guys. I think the next question that we have is, what is one of the best lessons that you have taken out of placement year? So we can start with Toby. He looks quite eager to answer.
No, it's a difficult question, right? Because I learned so much.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, work smart, not hard. I guess. You know, if you can do something quicker, it means that you can leave earlier. I guess. You know, there's no point spending 9 hours doing something when, yeah, I guess working smarter. I guess, and asking questions. Like Prem said earlier, actually. Sort of even asking stupid questions, I was sort of nervous too at the start, but like literally, they're so helpful. Like no matter what question you have, your manager or your colleagues will literally like, you know, give up their time to literally explain stuff to you, which I didn't realize. So yeah, definitely asking questions is something that I would take away.
Michelle?
Yeah, I'd value your team members as well. Like just they are like a whole bundle of experience. Like it's probably easier to ask them questions than to find it yourself in some cases, especially when it's like jargon and like abbreviations to do with the bank, because it's so particular and you don't realize how particular some of the language used is until you get to like a person that doesn't understand what you're talking about, because you've learned all this jargon from your own team and you realize, oh, it's a team specific word, not like a bank wide word, or like, yeah. So just being aware that like you're not gonna, it's like trying to learn the lingo, like you're not gonna understand it first like hand, and you're not gonna know what every abbreviation stands for. And I still don't know what half of the abbreviations were used for. And that's okay, because you just build your own like concept of what that means. And yeah, I ask people all the time, like, what is this like word? Like, what's it stand for? And they're like, we don't know. That's just what we call it. So yeah, don't be afraid of the jargon.
The lingo.
Priya?
Yeah, I think mine's more with Toby's one. I was more of a, working hard, spend a long time on something. And I did that initially at the beginning of the placement, and then as the months went past, I realized, I can do it easily this way. I learned from other colleagues. They were like, don't spend these many hours on it, blah, blah, blah. Go home. Next day you come, I think I would spend probably an extra hour in the evening. I remember doing it. Next morning I come in, I've done it in 10 minutes. So sometimes that break just helps, like, just leave it aside. Don't get too obsessed with it.
Take some table tennis breaks.
Especially. Yeah, exactly. You always hog those ones, by the way.
Yeah, I was good at taking breaks.
But yeah, so yeah. So sometimes, I think taking a break was a big point for me, because I wasn't really into that. I was like, I'm very impatient with myself. I just want to get done no matter what cost. Then I realized, take a break. Maybe next time it'll be done within a few minutes.
Thank you, guys. I think the next question is coming from me. So, for someone like me who's coming from a very non-techie background, is it still possible to make technology a full-fledged career?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
What do you currently study? Business, right?
I study business, yeah.
Yeah. The JP Morgan have a program called Tech Connect, where essentially you start the grad scheme, I think 3 to 6 months before everyone else, and they train you from scratch. It's a program literally designed for people who didn't do tech. They train you from scratch, and then you start the grad scheme like anyone else would in September. So that's a pipeline there, and I'm sure other companies do similar things. I think if you've got the willingness to learn and really understand, business and the tech, then definitely go for it. Because the learning curve isn't that crazy. I would say it's not.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And like for my experience, I only use Python in my day-to-day job, which is probably the easiest language anyone can pick up. And in my opinion, I think everyone should learn Python, or like just any coding language. And I think everyone can pick it up. It's not something that only really intelligent people can do. It just depends what you're using it for, really. And there's plenty of courses online. And like, honestly, it's just fun. And I think people underestimate how good coding is. It's like a good payoff. You get a lot of satisfaction from it. So I think anyone in like econ, business, like even me from maths, I mean, I guess it's a bit more like STEM, but even a non-STEM background, you can definitely pick it up if you have the willingness to like learn, I guess.
Priyam, your piece of advice for me?
Yeah, I think online courses is the one, man. I think there's so many online courses right now. You can pretty much practically do your whole computer science degree by downloading these courses, watching them. There's just tons of resources out there.
I mean,
I think because of that, you guys have the benefit of just watching these. You'll be up to scratch.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. Yeah, don't bother applying for a degree. Just get a Udemy course and you'll be fine.
Yeah, just Udemy.
Kaggle's pretty good as well, just as a starter thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. The one more thing as well. I think JP Morgan have this thing.
Pluralsight.
Something Academy.
Pluralsight.
Pluralsight. Sorry, Pluralsight. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, Pluralsight. So they give you a subscription, and has all these techie courses on there. So anything that new when you want to learn.
Is our subscription still active, by the way?
I heard from someone that they do use it, but
I got it.
What do we still have our subscription?
Yeah.
I think you'd need your banking.
Yeah. I have it
login.
on my iPad.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You could probably find similar stuff, or you could get your own.
That's pretty useful, actually. I might have to log back in.
Yeah.
But no. Any more questions?
They give you these opportunities.
Yes, we have a few more. So it's about your graduate offer. So the three of you have been successful in securing a grad scheme. So what exactly did you do to make yourself stand out?
To be honest, I want to tell you that they only picked 3 people, but unfortunately they picked everyone. Everyone on the that was a placement year student got the offer. The thing is about big firms, right? Is especially in tech, it's never about headcount. In tech, they never not hire someone because there wasn't enough room. It's often they didn't hire you because they didn't think you were good enough, and unfortunately sometimes that happens. I guess for us, we were all very lucky in the sense that we all sort of worked hard enough. There was a guy that left halfway through. I guess couldn't hack it. But that's a story in itself. But I guess I kind of performed well. If I'm being honest, I don't think I did anything outstanding. Like I didn't, decrypt the. I didn't do anything crazy. I just worked as good as anyone else, I think.
I mean, they're not really expecting you to jump through hurdles and hoops just to get the offer for a grad scheme. I think what someone told me in the bank was that if you got through the first process of getting on the placement, they're usually very good at filtering people at that stage, that when it gets to people on the placement, then generally everyone is up to scratch from the hiring perspective. And I think it's also helpful that you're on the placement in itself because it's a year long. So it's really hard to mess up over a year, if you get what I mean. You'd have to do something really stupid to not get an offer, I guess.
Yeah, and the way it sort of works, it might vary from firm to firm, but ultimately the manager puts forward almost a presentation on your behalf to sort of a board of hiring people and stuff. And if you have good rapport with your manager, he's not going to turn around and be like, yeah, don't hire him. So
keep a good relationship.
Keep a good relationship with your manager. And
I agree with that. I think very relationship based, just if you get along with your team, it helps. But also just do your job. And I don't think they're expecting you to be on point every day. And you're definitely going to make mistakes through the year and not understand certain things. And that's okay because it's you're generally just, learning the job. And by the end of it, you should be able to work just as well as anyone else on your team.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
The summer internships though are probably a bit more intense because
those are way more competitive.
Yeah, they're a bit more intense.
They're not 100% conversion, and also you what do you call it? You've only got 10 weeks to perform. You've only got 10 weeks to perform as well, right? Yeah. So we had a whole year, so we could really build rapport with our manager throughout the year. Whereas you got 10 weeks to sort of make a good impression, and some people I knew didn't convert the summer internship to a full-time graduate offer, unfortunately. So it's not a given with summer. Summer's more difficult.
Yeah, that's why I definitely recommend placements.
So I guess that's an advantage. Yeah, placement.
Yeah, sorry, Prem, you were saying something.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I think the intensity bit, that's why there's a big advantage of doing a placement. I think most cases you're likely to get an offer. If you have a good team, if you've got a good relationship with the manager, just try to be proactive. I think if you start, then, I kept it quite late with a meeting with the manager, and then I stepped up and then he said, yeah, this is the first thing I wanted you to do. And then he told me how I should go about throughout the year, etc.
Right. And one of the questions that we have is a very interesting one. It's basically, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? So are you able
I'm being interviewed?
to prophesize your future?
I feel like I'm being interviewed. No, that's a very difficult question, I guess. Obviously,
yeah.
I hope to start at JP Morgan. But really, the world is my oyster. I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years, but hopefully someplace good.
Yeah,
that's a very short and sweet answer. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I mean, hopefully someplace good, right? I mean,
no one can predict the future, really. With coronavirus, that's a clear example.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in technology and that sector, right? So I see myself working in that sector for a long time. Maybe as an engineer, maybe as a consultant. We just have to see, what happens.
Sure, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, ideally, I got quite interested in machine learning and data science, which is, I think, a lot more statistics and maths involved. So hopefully, I'm hoping to get somewhere in there within JP. But also thinking about like just moving around in the offices, so going to another country, because I know they have offices all around the world. So I think I'm hoping to get some more experience somewhere else. But yeah, I think they do recommend that every 3 years you try and change your role, or like you kind of saturated what you've learned from that role. So it's quite encouraged that you move and like you migrate to some different team or department. So I probably wouldn't get too comfortable in one team for like full 5 years, maybe. Move around a bit and just get different experiences, and I think that will help build you and like help you understand what you want to do in the future.
Yeah, I guess mine's a bit more like Toby as well. I want to stay in the tech sector. I want to first explore different technologies and then see, which one I really like, or do I still want to do this, or go into consultancy or something. But as of now, I think just focus on what's the present and have go to JP Morgan and do good there and see where else I can go within, like Michelle said, 3 years, different teams. I feel like working in a team for 1 year, then you can really think about, do you want to go to a different team? Do you think you've still got more learning space here? Then you start to think about the future later on. But as of now, I'm not sure entirely.
Great. So thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful insights. I think I've learned a lot out of this event.
Nice.
So I would just like to get your opinion as to how you found this event. So we can start from Toby again. So
No,
Toby,
this event was fantastic, man. I mean, you couldn't have selected, a better panel in my opinion. Michelle and Priyam, they were both in my office actually, because not a lot of people know, but there's 2 offices at JP Morgan. There's the Canary Wharf one that everyone has probably heard of, and there's also one in Blackfriars, which is more of startup-y vibes. There's a ping pong table and stuff. So Prem and Michelle were both in my office. So you couldn't have selected like anyone better, in my opinion. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the event. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and Michelle.
Oh, we can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Oops, sorry. But I was just saying that I like these types of panels because it's nice to have a casual discussion about these things, because just speaking to a bunch of people for like a long time, just one person is always a bit boring and I can never stay engaged with those. So I think this is a good format. Feels good. Thanks for letting us be on your panel.
Thank you. Priyam?
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've done something like this with like a panel like this. So I think I found it really fun. It was good, and it was quite engaging, and I hope whatever we said really helps people to apply to JP Morgan and maybe any other firms.
Yeah, definitely.
Once again, thank you so much, guys. Audience, I hope you benefited out of this event. And we have something coming up on the 5th of November. We're going to be having top-tier investment banks talk about the recruitment cycle. So I hope to see you then. For now, bye-bye from Surrey Business Society. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.